Hi, heroes. This is Take Me to Troy, episode 6. Paris plays some sports. Okay, so I've told you about the most beautiful woman in the world. Unfortunately, she's married right now to Menelaus. Wonder how that's going to work out. But we're going to leave her in Sparta with her new husband, and we're going to go back to Mount Ida to check in on Paris. So Paris has had that really weird and wonderful encounter with the three goddesses. He has chosen Aphrodite as the fairest of them all, and he's been promised the most beautiful woman in the world to be his wife. But he's been waiting around, and nothing has happened yet. He has not run into the most beautiful woman. What's he supposed to do? Aphrodite told him, as soon as he made the choice, Paris, it might take me some time to arrange the most beautiful woman in the world wife situation. Just hang in there. Well, he has been hanging in there. Meanwhile, I forgot to tell you this earlier, Hera and Aphrodite, the two goddesses that Paris did not choose, OMG, are they holding a grudge? Athena and Hera, as soon as Paris gave that apple to Aphrodite, they disappeared in a huff, and they've been nursing their grudges ever since. Not only do they vow to get even with Paris for not choosing them, they vow to get even with all Trojans. Can you believe it? Paris doesn't even know he's a Trojan. There's no way he knows that he's a Trojan prince right now. But Athena and Hera do because they're goddesses. And so because Paris is a secret Trojan prince, those two goddesses nurse their grudges against him and against his people. And this is going to spell bad news for the future of Troy. But nobody knows about that right now. Paris is just sitting on that mountainside thinking, I need to go where there are more people if I'm going to run into the most beautiful woman in the world. So he hears of these athletic contests, which are happening in Troy, and he's never been to that big city. He's heard about it. He's sort of seen some smoke curling up in the distance from the houses in Troy when he's up on his mountain, but he hasn't been there yet. And he decides, I want to be where things can happen to me. So he tells his shepherd father and his shepherd mother that he's going to go to Troy to enter himself in those athletic contests. And they try to persuade him not to go. His dad has a really, really bad feeling about this. But Paris can't be swayed. He packs up his little bag and he starts setting off down the mountain towards the city. Unbeknownst to him, his shepherd father's really worried about him, and so he follows close behind. Anyway, Paris gets to Troy. He enters himself in the contest. He runs a lot of foot races. He wrestles a lot of guys. He throws some javelins. All those sports that the ancient Greeks helped to make popular. He competes in. And he's surprisingly good. He's been training on a mountain after all. Isn't that what Olympic athletes do? They go to Colorado to the Olympic Center and they train in the high altitude so that their lungs get all used to working that hard, and then they go compete in the lower altitudes and they do awesome. That's what Paris has done without even trying. All that lifting of sheep has made him strong. All that walking on the mountain has made him agile and fast, and he's just a great athlete. It's kind of a surprise to everyone. In fact, it turns out there's really only one guy who offers him any competition at all. And that guy is Hector, Prince of Troy. He's a really good athlete too. And it's kind of funny because Paris will win a race, and then Hector will win the next race. And then Paris will win a wrestling match, and then Hector will win a wrestling match. They're like neck and neck. And as soon as one wins, the other wins afterwards. So Paris has racked up quite a few laurel wreaths as symbols of honor and prowess as an athlete. And the whole crowd is abuzz with this unknown guy from Mount Ida who's a shepherd who's competing and winning. And people are really curious. He's the it guy. And so King Priam and Queen Hecuba want to meet him. He comes before the king and queen, bows before them. They say, we are so impressed with your athletic abilities. Where and how did you train? And he says, well, I've just been living on a mountain and taking care of my sheep, and I don't know, just go about living my life, and I've been really lucky at these games. And they say, well, that can't be it. You must have had some training. And you know what? It's really weird. We know you're a shepherd, you've told us, but you carry yourself with such a regal bearing. How are you educated? And Paris says, not really educated, actually. My dad taught me how to be a shepherd. And they say, well, wow, that's really weird. You carry yourself with such nobility. And by the way, have we met before? You look vaguely familiar to us. And Paris is like, nope, never been to Troy before, unless you've come to Mount Ida, and I think I would have remembered that. So they go on having this frustrating conversation where the king and queen feel like there's something unusual in a good way about this guy, but they can't really put their fingers on it until they get to the point, they're asking him so many questions about his background and his parents and blah, 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 that finally Paris's shepherd father steps out of the crowd and approaches the king and queen. He bows before them and he says, Your Majesty, my son is having some trouble answering your questions about his birth and his upbringing, because the truth is, and at this point he turns toward his son Paris and he takes his hands and he says, Son, I should have told you this a long time ago. From the moment I first held you in my arms, you were my son, and I have loved you, and I have loved every minute of taking care of you. But I have to tell you, your mother and I have wanted to tell you for a long time. It just never seemed like the right moment. The truth is, you're adopted. And wow, Paris is stunned. Adopted. It's weird though. He's not completely shocked. The truth is, he's always sort of felt as if he didn't belong, like he was a little out of place. And now that he knows that he's adopted, that feeling that he's had is starting to make a little bit of sense. Well, the king and the queen are listening to this, and they're looking at Paris, trying to figure out his age. They ask him. He says, I'm 18. They say, 18, huh? And then they turn to the shepherd and they say, how is it you came to adopt this young man? And the shepherd tells them about finding this baby in the wilderness on the sides of Mount Ida. And they say, when exactly was this? Where exactly was this? And then they call the servant who had left their baby on the mountainside all those years ago. That guy's still in their employ. They call him forward and they ask him, where did you leave the baby? And he tells them, and all of a sudden the date, the location, Paris's age, his weird familiarity to them, it all comes together and they realize, oh my gosh, Paris, you are our long-lost son who we had put out on the mountainside all those years ago because, there was this weird prophecy that you were going to cause the downfall of Troy and destroy it all. And we foolishly believed that, so we left you out to die. But, oh my gosh, you're here now, and look at you. You're so handsome. You're grown up. You're so accomplished. And, wow, welcome to the family. That's a lot to take in. Paris just has found out that he's adopted, and now he finds out that he is a prince of Troy? Whoa, crazy. But, wouldn't it be kind of cool? Wouldn't you be really excited if you found out that you were long-lost royalty? He's got stars in his eyes, people. Wow. And so when the king and queen invite him into their home, he goes with them, and he doesn't even look back at his shepherd father. They will never meet again. But he goes into the palace and he meets the rest of his brothers and sisters. There are a lot of them by a lot of different mothers. It's said that Priam had 100 sons or something like that by the time he ended up dying. There are a lot of brothers, sisters, half-sisters for Paris to meet. And all of them are sort of surprised. None of them really knew that there was this long-lost brother. And so they're surprised, but they're cautiously happy to welcome him into the family, especially Hector. That guy's a real class act. And so he takes his new brother Paris under his arm and says, I am going to introduce you around. I'll show you the ropes, show you how to be a prince. It's going to be great, brother. There's only one person who is not happy to meet this new brother. This person is Cassandra. If you remember her, she was a itsy-bitsy little toddler when her brother Paris/Alexandros was actually born. Well, the backstory on Cassandra is that she was becoming a priestess of Apollo, the god Apollo. And during her training when she was a young girl, Apollo fell in love with her. And unlike his dad, Apollo seems to have very bad luck with the women. I don't know what his problem is. He is the god of poetry. I don't know. Well, why doesn't he just recite him some poetry? But anyway, he tries to seduce Cassandra, and he professes his love to her, and she's sort of wavering. And so in order to convince her to give him a chance, he gives her the gift of prophecy. So Cassandra all of a sudden is able to see into the future. She knows what the future holds, but she realizes she's really not into Apollo. And so she spurns his advances. He gets really angry because, oh my gosh, he's given her the gift of prophecy after all. But the thing is, he can't take the gift back. So what he's done is he curses Cassandra so that nobody will ever believe her prophecies. So she's constantly seeing these visions of things that are going to happen in the future, and she tries to warn people about it so they can make some changes, and they don't believe her. And you can imagine how frustrating this has been for her, especially since she's cursed. Everybody, every time she gives a prophecy, it's not just that people don't believe her, it's that they say stuff like, you're crazy, Cassandra, get away from me, I don't want to listen to your doom and gloom anymore. And so she's been dealing with that all this time. Well, since she can see into the future, you can imagine when she sets eyes on her new brother Paris, she immediately gets this horrifying vision, probably a lot like the vision that her mother had in that nightmare all those years ago. She sees flames, blood, death, destruction, all centering around Paris. And so as soon as she sees him and she sees this vision, she's all, ah! Oh my gosh! Get him away! He's going to kill us all! And she starts screaming and yelling and generally freaking out. And her relatives are all, Cassandra, shut up! We don't want to listen to you! Stop it! This is our new brother! We want to welcome him into the family! And so they say, get away from us! And that is where we'll leave off for now. See you next time.